Hello, everyone, and wow, it's been quite a long time since I last made a Planet Coaster video, isn't it? 2 years since the last one, 4 since I made frequent uploads. Anyways, really excited to get back with Planet Coaster 2, just on the horizon. But yeah, I can't believe we're finally getting Planet Coaster 2 after all these years, and it looks absolutely amazing. Now, real quick, for all my older viewers from back in the day, and for all of you new faces with Planet Coaster 2's arrival, I have a brand new Discord server up and running, and if you're interested in joining what I'm considering a fresh start to my channel, I'll have an invite link to the server in the description below. Anyways, with that said, we need to talk about one of the largest changes to Planet Coaster 2, and then we can look at some of the smaller blink and you'll miss it details. So to start, the path system has been completely, and I mean completely overhauled. I was not expecting such a massive change to the path system. I honestly was expecting a change, but I was not expecting it to just be different. It's not even the same thing. It wasn't even upgraded. It's just different. So paths, queues, and staff paths are now options now. They're not considered different path types. So you have the different options, but now the textures are universal, and also they can be color swapped. So if you want to have a texture that was once only on a queue line in Planet Coaster 1, and Planet Coaster 2, those textures can also be used for queues, paths, and I believe also staff paths. So they're no longer locked to the path type. To continue on, there's different tools now for building paths, including drawing, point and click, stamp, and even classic. There are other tools, but we don't quite know the names of them yet. There's one with a square and what looks like a rounded edge. Not too sure what that is. There's one with a paintbrush. I'm not too sure if the paintbrush is going to be kind of like you brush a area, or if you're going to be able to like change the texture of a path with this brush tool. And finally, there's another tool that has a square icon, but one of the points on the square looked like it's being dragged. This might be an edit tool where potentially we can edit what was drawn as a plaza previously, but that's my only guess. Continuing on, when we take a look at the UI here for the path tool, we can take a look that we can see a line style, terrain style, and connection type. So line style seems to be we can choose a curved path or a straight path. And then we have connection type is something that we had in Planet Coaster 1. However, it was like a hidden feature. You had to like know how to change it because it wasn't in any of the menus. If you go to the advanced options, you would not see a single toggle for connection type. So if you wanted to change the connection type in Planet Coaster 1, you had to be building a path, and when you're connecting it with another path by making a fork, you'd want to hold the Z button on your keyboard. By holding down the Z button, you can change it from a square connection to more of a straight in, like you're cutting into the path at whatever angle that you're coming in at. It's not like you're squaring off to be perpendicular to the path. The final thing I want to point out on this screenshot of the path builder UI is that we can actually see an option saying priority. Now, you may be thinking priority queues, obviously. However, I don't think so, because as we can see in the reveal, paths can overlap onto other paths, and not just normal paths. We can also build queues over top of paths. So if you have a plaza, you can drop down a ride in the middle of the plaza. Yes, you can drop a ride on paths now, and then you can build a queue line on said path. So you can have a flat ride be the centerpiece of a plaza without having to carefully build the path around the ride. You can just build the plaza, plop the ride down, build your queue on the plaza, and that's it. And the priority option in the UI appears to be for if you're building a path, like a normal path on a normal path, where you can decide which texture may be overlaid on top, like which path takes priority over the other one. So if you have priority on, my guess is like if you build a path through another path, the path that you're building is going to take priority for the texture. Then if you have priority off, when you build a path through a path, then the existing path that was already there will instead take priority. However, that's just my theory. I could be extremely wrong because we haven't actually seen any building footage of building a path on another path, other than placing it down with a blueprint. Which, yes, paths are now a part of blueprints, which is crazy. Now, the final thing, well, paths, actually I have two more things. We have path extras in the UI now. So if we take a look at the top of the UI, we can see that there's our build mode. We have our customization tab, which we can swap out the colors and the textures for the path. We have a icon that appears to be a bench and a bin, which means I believe our path extras such as bins, benches, picnic tables, etc. are all going to be in this tab. And then finally, we have the buildos tab. Now, when it comes to rides, it seems like we're going to be having priority queues make a return, but they're going to be a bit different and in a, honestly, a way I'm really excited to see, because it doesn't look like the way they're implementing priority queues now will bottleneck your queue. So if we take a look at this one screenshot of the reveal, we can see that there's a exit and an entrance, but then there's a second entrance going into the ride itself. So there's two queues. My theory is that one of these queues is the priority queue, so we can create two separate queues. One is the standby and the other is our priority. Okay, let's get into some blink and you will miss it moments now that we have the massive change that is paths out of the way, because I know that like any old viewers that are still around are probably going to be wondering about my opinions on the path system or may want me to just discuss it. But I want to talk about stuff that are not quite obvious in the footage. Stuff that would like be kind of like you had to be looking for it. Now, one of these things being the lifeguards, I don't believe is entirely a blink and you miss it moment, but I know some people were surprised to actually see it happen, where lifeguards aren't just something to sit around and do nothing, they will actually jump into the water and help out guests. Now, whether guests can actually drown, I don't believe that's going to happen. Instead, I think it's just going to be like a panic kind of thing where the guest is like panicked and scared and like maybe they'll need some sort of facility to go to, probably like a first aid thing, but they're not going to probably drown. I really doubt they're going to go there, especially considering the rating of the game. The other thing about pools that is like kind of a blink and you'll miss it moment just because it's kind of hard to like see it is that pools have varying depth. So unlike Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, where if you build a pool, the pool will always be the same depth. Like it will always be just as deep anywhere you go. You cannot make it shallow, cannot make it deep, right? But in Planet Coaster 2, we can see that pools can have shallow ends, deep ends, and you can like change where the slope of these changes are. Now, I don't know for sure how this is going to work building wise, because we actually have not seen what the building tool of pools are yet. There's two other things with pools that we can see in this footage. One being that they could be placed down as blueprints. That includes slides, paths, pools, rides, coasters. They can all be placed down as blueprints. And finally, the texture on the pool, both being the border of the pool and the bottom of the pool, can be changed and I believe color swapped as well. So now like real quick, a very like true blink and you miss a moment, because it was only on screen for like not even like a split second. If you go to the 40-minute 07 mark of the live stream reveal, we can see the mouse hovering over a new tab with the label Scenery Brush. I believe is happening here is we'll be able to have a brush tool for placing down scenery like trees, bushes, and rocks. Now, real quick, let's take a look at the Ride Management tab. So this is going to be the UI menu that pops up when you're managing a ride in your park, whether this be a flat ride or whether it be a coaster. Now for power required, we can see that it varies drastically between rides. There's a flat ride that requires 53 power, and there's a roller coaster that only requires 5. So we're going to have a power system in the game, and the power isn't just like a radius and like the number of rides it can handle. but it's going to be like an actual value of like how much power that ride is going to end up consuming. There's some other details here that kind of like stands out to me. So income yesterday and customers yesterday kind of stand out to me because it's like in Planet Coaster 1, it was income last month and customers last month because it was a monthly thing. But now we're getting a daily thing. I was in the middle of recording this and I only just spotted this now, and I have no idea where I'm going to be inserting this into the video, so it may contradict a few things I may be saying somewhere else in the video, and if it does, fuck it. But it was right dead center in front of me the whole time. I did not notice it throughout the whole reveal stream, and I did not notice it the entire time I was recording audio for this video and reviewing the footage. But in the bottom of the screen, in the dead center, we have the time and the day, not year. So you're no longer tracking how many years have gone by in your park, instead how many days. So looking at the time throughout the whole stream at the bottom, it goes by extremely slow. So I think some people may be on the right track when it comes to potentially having your park close and open for the day, but I don't know for sure if that's actually going to be the case. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. However, it does seem like they're just trying to pull the scale of the time back to be a bit more realistic, so that way it doesn't feel like a guest has been in the park for what seems to be months when it should have just been a single day or two. If we continue going down in the list though, we can also see Park Zone. This is another thing that I've seen some people completely overlook and just like, does this mean that we can make lands in our park? Like you can like designate one section as like a certain theme and another section as another theme. And it's not like you're doing that in your head, but you can actually designate it in the park itself and potentially influence guests for whatever like theme they want or whatever like style of rides they want. Who knows what this means entirely? I want to believe it means that we can actually name lands in our park now, and we can actually have that influence how the guests will navigate the park. Now, if we take a look at the top of the ride management tab, we can see all the different tabs for the different sections that you can modify, such as the overview, finance, stats. Then there's an icon of a ride operator. This means that we're going to be actually having ride operators be hired now, and they have to be at the ride for it to operate. It'll likely operate similar to how vendors will work. So if a vendor is too tired, they'll just like close down the shop and wander around or head to the nearest staff building. So it looks like ride operators are now going to be very similar, where if they get too tired, we may end up risking the ride shutting down. So we want to make sure we have ride operators available and on standby to be able to relieve them. Now let's move on to roller coasters. Now in Planet Coaster 2, it has its own dedicated menu that's quite different, where on the far left, we have a list of different roller coasters. In the center, we have a picture of it. And then on the right, we have an overview and along with the specifications. And at the top of the menu, we have a tab of all chain lift, launch, alternative lift, which is interesting. Suspended, wooden, wing, water, and special. So special and alternative lift has my attention here, because what could alternate lift mean? When taking a look at the list of roller coasters we have, immediately there's a detail that was actually quite entertaining to me, where we have ride manufacturers in the game, and not like real ride manufacturers, but like parody names. And we have like V and N. I'm not even going to try pronouncing the actual wording they have in the game, but there's V and N, which is a play on B&M. There's Outamax, which is a play on Intamin. Big M's Rides is a play on Mac Rides, and etc. So there's a whole bunch of different manufacturers in the game that's being a parody of a real life manufacturer of a coaster. Unfortunately, when it comes to the flat rides, they don't get the same kind of treatment as it comes to the roller coasters. The flat rides just have a list of ride names, but they don't have a manufacturer name. Another detail with flat rides is that you can add patterns to the flat rides, so you can make them appear different. So in this shot on the far left, we can see it's very generic, plain, just solid blue and a solid red at the top. In the middle, ignoring the scenery around it, we can see it's striped going all the way down. Now, if we take a look on the one on the far right, it also has a similar stripe pattern, but with a bit more detail to it. And finally, there's a flower detail on the front. So this means that not just swap out the colors, but you can swap out the pattern on the ride itself. To wrap up this video, I have a few more blinkety missed details. If you take a look at the one slide within the first few shots, we can see that there's translucent slide pieces. So the slides aren't restricted to just being a solid color. We can make it slightly translucent as well. Take a look at the bottom right corner of the UI in the game. We can see that there's two buttons. One is for the day-night cycle as expected, but right beside it, we have weather. So weather is going to be in the game. It's not just going to be if it rains or if it's sunny, but if it's sunny, there's going to be like different temperatures, and guests have to be kept cool because if they get too hot, they will burn. So you have to also sell them sunscreen and make sure you provide them shade. And the final thing I want to mention is the Frontier Workshop. So it appears that the Steam Workshop is going to be no more for Planet Coaster. Instead, it's going to be all on the same workshop, which is going to be the Frontier Workshop, which is Frontier's own workshop that they created for the console edition of Planet Coaster. But now the workshop is going to be cross-platform. So if you're on PC, you can share with PS5, and you can also share with Xbox. However, if you share with console, as they mentioned during the reveal, you have to maintain the limits of those platforms. So those platforms are going to have build limitations, make sure that the game can run perfectly fine on those platforms. So if you're on PC, you have to make sure you stay within those limits, but you're not restricted to those limits on PC if you just want to only interact with the other PC players. I know I said the last one was going to be the last one, but this is the real last one. The UI has button icons, which makes me believe that we're going to be able to actually use controller on PC. Not that you may want to, but it's an option because the UI does give off a console edition vibe. And to me, that means that we're probably going to be seeing universal compatibility between keyboard and mouse and controller supports between console and PC. Anyway, that is all the small details I thought would be worth mentioning. I'm sure there are ones I forgot, so feel free to comment your findings in the comments below. I am going to be getting back into Planet Coaster content both on Twitch and here on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe if you're interested in that. Once again, I have a new Discord, so if you'd like to discuss more Planet Coaster activities with me and the community, be sure to check that out in the description below. Anyway, that is all for now, so I'll see you all around later.